If you're watching this, you're 100% a horror fanatic and we approve. Let us know where you are watching this from and be a part of our community. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Your support means everything. Let's start. After my last serious relationship fizzled out, I decided I was done with commitment for a while. I'd already met a few people on dating apps like SparkMatch. 2 dates went nowhere, and the third turned into a 4-month situationship that I bailed on when it got too serious. This time, I just wanted something easy. No labels, no expectations. That's when I matched with Tessa. Tessa seemed low maintenance, chill. We messaged on and off for a few days before she casually suggested, "Wanna just hang at your place tonight?" I'm cool with a laid-back vibe. That sounded perfect. She showed up about half an hour later, wearing a loose gray hoodie and jeans, her hair tucked behind her ears. In person, she was different, quieter than I expected, kind of distant, like her mind was somewhere else. Still, we went upstairs to my room, just the two of us. We sat on opposite ends of my bed with the TV playing some throwaway comedy neither of us was really watching. I did most of the talking about movies, about college, about random stuff to fill the silence. She barely spoke, only occasionally glancing at me with this unreadable expression. It was awkward, yeah, but I kept pushing through it. In the back of my mind, I kept wondering, does she expect me to kiss her? Do I make a move? Is this how these things work? But as the hours slipped by, I stopped thinking about kissing her. I started thinking about getting her out of my house. She changed. Tessa's eyes lost whatever spark they had. Her voice got slow, distant, like she was speaking through layers of cotton. She started saying things like, "You ever think about how we're all just pretending? Like none of this is real, but we play along anyway." Then she would go silent again, staring off at the corner of the ceiling. It was unsettling. Then she said something that caught me off guard. "Thanks for letting me stay the night," she murmured. I blinked. "Wait, you mean, like, actually stay over?" She nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the carpet. I thought you meant hang out for the night. I didn't realize you meant stay." I scratched the back of my neck, trying to be polite but rattled. "Oh, sorry. Figured it was cool. I don't really have anywhere to be," she said flatly. There was something about the way she said it, like it wasn't really a question, like she'd already decided. Yeah, it's fine," I muttered, getting up to grab some blankets and pillows. I made her a makeshift bed on the floor beside mine. "Thank you," she said softly, then lay down facing the wall. I turned off the TV, the room falling into thick silence. We didn't say another word. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my pulse refusing to settle. Took forever, but eventually I drifted off. When I woke up, it was still dark. Something had pulled me out of sleep. A sound, maybe, or just a sharp jolt of instinct. I sat up, my eyes flicking down to where Tessa had been sleeping. The blankets were crumpled, but she wasn't there. A cold ripple went through my chest. I turned on my bedside lamp and scanned the room. Empty. The bathroom door was open and dark. Then I heard it. A voice, low and mumbling, floating up from downstairs. I slipped out of bed, heart thudding against my ribs, and crept to the top of the staircase. The apartment was dead quiet, except for Tessa's voice echoing from the kitchen. I couldn't make out the words, just the steady, eerie rhythm of her murmuring. I whispered, "Tessa." No answer, just the muttering. The hair on my arms prickled as I carefully made my way downstairs. The kitchen was dim, the only light coming from the street lamp outside, casting a pale stripe across the counter. There she was. Tessa sat rigidly in one of the kitchen chairs, facing the wall. Her body was perfectly still, but her lips moved rapidly, whispering things I couldn't understand. I stopped in the doorway. "Tessa, are you okay?" She slowly turned her head to look at me, her face slack, her eyes hollow. She stared at me for several agonizing seconds, then without a word, turned back to the wall. A tremble ran through my entire body. I backed away, bolted upstairs, and slammed my bedroom door. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and called my dad. Took 3 tries before he answered, his voice groggy. "What's going on? Why are you calling so late?" I whispered frantically, "Dad, there's this girl from online, Tessa. She's here, and she's acting insane. She's in my kitchen whispering to herself, just sitting there staring at the wall. I don't know what to do." There was silence on the other end. Then, "What? Call the police now. Get her out safely." "Dad, That's when I noticed her. In the faint light creeping in from the hallway, I saw her silhouette, Tessa, standing silently in my bedroom doorway. I stopped breathing. My dad's voice faded into the background, repeating, "Hello? Are you there?" Tessa stood perfectly still for a long, excruciating moment. Then, with a sudden, piercing scream, she rushed at me, her hands locked around my throat, her fingernails digging into my skin as she tried to strangle me. I thrashed wildly, barely managing to overpower her, forcing her down onto the bed. "Get off me!" I screamed. "Dad, call the cops now." Tessa fought, clawing at me with terrifying strength. I dragged her, screaming and writhing, downstairs, barely able to contain her until the police arrived. When the officers cuffed her and led her out, she suddenly went quiet, staring at me with that same blank, detached expression. I'll never forget that look. After giving my statement, the police explained that Tessa had likely suffered some kind of severe psychotic episode. They took her to a hospital for evaluation. For days after, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the sound of her voice muttering in the kitchen, the soft creak of the floorboards, the shadow standing in my doorway. I wondered if I'd done something wrong, missed some warning signs, failed to set boundaries. All I know is that I was lucky. I met a stranger on an app, let her into my home, and she almost killed me. I never invited anyone to my place again. Not ever. Some lessons you only survive once. After breaking up with my first girlfriend when I was 21, I spent about a year figuring out who I was again. I had grown used to always being someone's boyfriend, so being single felt like wandering through a fog. Eventually, I started thinking maybe it was time to ease back into dating. Hesitant but curious, I downloaded a few dating apps, swiping through the sea of profiles until one caught my attention. Her name was Maya. She was beautiful, a soft-featured, light-skinned black girl with a wide, effortless smile in her pictures. Her bio said she loved old horror movies, hiking at sunset, and cooking elaborate pasta dishes. Just enough common ground to draw me in. We talked for about a week. Her texts were sweet, her humor playful. It felt comfortable. When she suggested I pick her up at her house for dinner, I agreed without overthinking it. Maya lived on the east side of a town I didn't know well. I pulled up outside her house just after 6:30 p.m., just as the last sliver of sunlight was fading behind the rows of narrow homes. The streetlights buzzed faintly as they flickered on. I parked by the curb and texted her. Here, smiley face. Minutes passed. I sat in my car, watching the blinking cursor in our chat, waiting for that little typing bubble to appear. The longer I waited, the more my stomach tightened. Finally, a message popped up. "Hey, sorry, my cousin's being super annoying. He wants to come outside to meet you first. He says it's non-negotiable. So embarrassing, LOL. I frowned, staring at the screen. Really? I texted back. Is that necessary? She replied almost instantly. I know. I'm sorry. He's just really protective. Please just humor him. He'll feel better if he meets you for a sec. I sighed and typed, okay, I guess. A moment later, the door creaked open. A tall man stepped out onto the porch and scanned the street until his eyes landed on me. He had dark, nearly coal-black skin that made me hesitate. Maya was much lighter. He didn't look like her cousin. He didn't look like family at all. He approached with a practiced, easy smile and extended his hand. Yo, man, I'm Devin, Maya's cousin. Appreciate you coming out tonight. I shook his hand, feeling his grip linger just a second too long. Yeah, no problem. She, still getting ready? He laughed. She's always late. Classic Maya. Come inside, bro. She'll be down in a minute. I paused. Something gnawed at me, but I didn't want to seem rude. I followed him up the porch steps and into the house. He shut the door behind me, the click of the lock unusually loud in the silence. Hang here in the living room. I'll go get her, Devin said, already heading upstairs. The house smelled faintly of cigarettes and something else. Stale, greasy food. The air felt thick. I shifted uncomfortably, glancing around. That's when I noticed them. Two men were sitting on a sagging couch in the corner of the living room, both staring at me. Not in a curious way, but in a slow, calculating way, like they'd already decided something about me. One of them gave a lazy nod when I said, "Hey." The other didn't move. "Devin," I called, suddenly uneasy. "Everything good up there?" "Yeah, man," he shouted down. "She's taking forever. Can't find her phone or something." I glanced toward the dining room. There. Another man sat at the table, unmoving, staring directly at me. I felt a chill rise up my spine. "Hey, where's Maya? Exactly?" I called out, my voice slightly cracking. Hold up. I'm looking," Devin shouted from upstairs. My heart thudded. I took a slow step backward toward the front door, wrapping my hand around the knob without turning my back to them. That's when one of the men growled, "Grab him!" Adrenaline exploded in my chest. I yanked the door open and bolted, sprinting to my car as their footsteps thundered behind me. My fingers fumbled at the handle, barely wrenching it open and slamming the door shut as their fists pounded against the glass. They screamed, kicked the panels, tried to wrench the door open, but I twisted the key, slammed the shifter into drive, and peeled away, tires shrieking against the asphalt. I didn't stop until I was miles away. My breathing was ragged, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the wheel. When I finally made it home, I stumbled into the kitchen, where my parents sat drinking coffee, and blurted out everything. First, they didn't believe me. Maybe it was too much to process, the dating app, the strangers, the house that wasn't what it seemed. But the raw fear in my voice eventually sank in. "You need to call the police," my dad said, dead serious. I did. I filed a report. At first, I wondered if the cops would take me seriously, but they did. Turns out, one of the neighbors had called in an anonymous tip. They'd seen the men chasing me, slamming their fists into my car. That witness made the difference. The police arrested 3 men from that house. Devin, if that was his real name, was one of them. The 4th guy, the one who sat silently at the dining table, was never found. They suspected the whole thing was a setup to lure people from dating apps for robbery or worse. For weeks after, I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd nearly been trapped, maybe killed. I kept replaying the moment I reached for the doorknob and heard that shout. I kept wondering, what if I'd hesitated? What if I'd gone deeper into the house? I didn't stop using dating apps, but I became hyper-aware, almost paranoid. No more home pickups. No more trusting profiles at face value. I always insisted on meeting in crowded public spaces. The scars from that night weren't physical, but they cut deep. There's a kind of horror in realizing how easily you can step into a trap when you're just looking for connection. When all it takes is the right smile and a few kind words to pull you toward the dark. Most of my life I've been single. I wasn't bitter about it, just used to doing my own thing. Now and then, when boredom crept in or the nights got too quiet, I'd open an app called LinkUp, a dating app mostly for casual fun. Yeah, I'd met some weird people, but nothing could have prepared me for her. It happened in February of 2016, the dead of winter in Birch Hollow, where the snow turned the streets into ice rinks and the freezing wind made staying in seem like the only option. That's probably why LinkUp was buzzing with activity. No one wanted to go out, but everyone wanted company. That's how I started talking to Nina. She stood out. Shoulder-length black hair, green eyes sharp as glass, a half smirk in every photo like she knew something you didn't. Her messages weren't typical flirty nonsense either. They were witty, clever, different enough to keep me hooked. For a few days, we messaged back and forth, her replies always making me grin. I even got that little jolt of excitement every time LinkUp chimed with a new notification from her. Then one night, she asked, "You want to hang out?" It was snowing hard outside, and I hesitated. "You mean like now?" "Yeah, why not?" She replied, "Just give me your address. I'll head over." Without thinking too hard, I sent it. I should have been cautious, but my judgment got clouded by loneliness and curiosity. She said she'd be there soon. I texted back, "Cool, but maybe send me your number? Easier to stay in touch that way." No response. Her status on the app switched to offline after a few minutes. First, I shrugged it off. Maybe she lost connection. Maybe she changed her mind. I settled back into the couch, watching TV, refreshing the app now and then, waiting for her to pop back online. She didn't. An hour passed. It got late. My eyelids got heavy, and eventually I gave up. Whatever, I thought. Another flaky match. I went to bed. The next morning, gray light filtered through the curtains. I checked the clock. 6:30 a.m. rain ticked against the window, soft but steady. It was still dim outside, that weird limbo between night and day. I reached for my phone, half asleep, planning to scroll aimlessly for a bit before going back to sleep. That's when I saw the notifications. For messages from Nina. My stomach flipped as I opened LinkUp. 1:57 a.m. "Hey, I'm coming over now." 2:18 a.m. "Almost there." 2:41 a.m. "I'm outside." 3:05 a.m. "I'm watching you." The last message made my skin crawl. My eyes flicked to her profile. She was online, active right now. A new message popped up with the familiar chime. "Sleep well." My pulse pounded in my ears. My hands trembled as I sat up, scanning the room, suddenly aware of every shadow, every creak. I typed back, "Who the hell is this?" 10 agonizing seconds later, her reply appeared, "Check your closet and find out." I froze, my breath catching in my throat. Slowly, I turned my head toward the closet across the room. The closet door that I knew I had closed before going to bed. Now it was cracked open. I stared, my body locked in place, as the door creaked wider. Darkness pooled inside, and for a split second, I thought I saw something shift in there. Something low, subtle, human. A surge of panic hit me. I bolted for the bedroom door, but the closet stood directly between me and the exit. I had to pass it to get out. I could hear my heartbeat thudding in my ears as I scrambled across the room and into the hall. "Dad!" I shouted, running to his room. I shoved the door open, empty bed. My brain stuttered. That's right. He wasn't home this weekend. Hunting trip. He wouldn't be back until Monday, but my older brother was home. Tyler! I banged on his door. He yanked it open, bleary-eyed. Dude, what the hell? There's someone in my closet, I stammered. Nina, the girl from the app. I think she's in my room. Tyler's face twisted with confusion. What? You let her in? I didn't. She never even showed up. I thought she ghosted me, but she's here. I couldn't finish the sentence. Tyler grabbed a baseball bat from his closet and motioned for me to follow. Together, we crept back to my room. The closet door now stood fully open. The room was empty, no one inside. But then the cold hit me. A sharp, biting draft against my skin. I looked toward the window, slightly ajar. Snow melting on the sill. My gut clenched. I always locked that window. Always. We checked the closet empty. Nothing but my clothes and a pile of old boxes. But that icy breeze and those messages? They told the real story. She'd been here. The realization crawled under my skin. She'd gotten in through the window, watched me sleep, maybe hid in that closet for hours. I felt physically sick. We called the cops, showed them the messages. They took it seriously, but tracing someone on LinkUp wasn't that simple. They needed court orders, cooperation from the company, all of which would take time if they even bothered. For days, I barely slept. I'd double-check the locks, wedge a chair under the door handle, but every creak of the floorboards made my chest seize. I even started leaving the closet door wide open, terrified of what might be waiting behind it if I didn't. Eventually, the messages stopped. Nina's profile vanished. Either she deleted it or they shut it down, no one ever told me. But I never truly relaxed, because every so often, I'll hear that familiar ding from my phone, some random notification, and for a split second, my blood runs cold, expecting to see her name again, wondering if she's still out there watching, waiting, and if one day I'll forget to lock the window